Alright, we're going to move into confidence intervals for proportions. So you should have watched the video on proportions, on sample proportions. So confidence intervals for proportions. For a sample of size n with a sample proportion p hat, the 95% confidence interval for p is given by this formula here. Now this should look really similar to us. If I was to write this a little bit differently, this would be x bar, this would be x bar, and then you've got your minus your z value from our confidence interval part. And you'll notice this is the formula for standard deviation, and because it's part of the proportion, it's almost like you're doing a sample of 1 here. So this formula is actually just slightly changed from our proportion values. Now in here I've done, or we can do an alternate confidence interval. So this one here is if we're looking for coming up with a confidence interval for a different proportion that's not 95%, we would use this formula here, where this probability, we've got to pick some bounds, equals the confidence interval of the z distribution. So let's just pick I've picked a 90 here. Let's just do this to help if you haven't done this before. So in your calculator, you're going to go to your stats mode, you press distribution, normal, inverse, and then you change your standard deviation to 1, your mean to 0, and your area here we're going to change to 0.90. So we're doing a 90% confidence interval. And this thing here being central means it goes out from the center, which is ideally what we want, because you notice here with this z distribution, it goes up to z subscript alpha on 2 and minus z alpha on 2. And so this means that we can then go calc. And this, when I put that in, this would give me, for a 90% confidence interval, I would be going my proportion minus 1.64, and then square root, I should do it a bit lower. I'll do it below so we can see it. Okay, so this down here we do p hat minus 1.64 square root proportion, the opposite to the proportion, not the opposite, 1 minus the proportion over n, less than equal the actual population proportion, and then p hat plus 1.64 proportion 1 minus proportion over n. So pretty easy here. Now let's just go straight into a question. So this is straight from our text, which you might recognise, but let's go with it anyway. A random sample of 200 Australians showed that 76 supported the Adelaide Crows AFL team. So straight off the bat, this should be a big hint to us that we're going, whoa, that's going to mean that, sorry, I was going to do it above. I thought this is even simpler than I thought. So find the proportion of Crows fans. So we've got P, the proportion, the number of successes over the number of trials, and we had 200 trials, and then we've got 76. Okay, which means this is going to be, if I halve both values here, just to do a little bit in my head. So half of 70 is 35, half of 6 is 3, so 35 plus 3 is 38 over 100, which means I've got an exact decimal value of 0.38, which means 38% go for the Crows. Okay, the next bit here asks us, and let's see whether we can move this up a touch. There we go. Construct a 95% confidence interval for the proportion of South Australians who support the Crows and interpret your answer. So I'm going to be super lazy here. Let's just copy this bad boy down. So this is our formula for proportion. Now, from above, we have calculated these. So let's just put our values in. So we've got 0.38 minus 1.96 square root 0.38, and then times by the opposite to, 1 minus 0.38 gives us 0.62 all over, and there was 200 samples there. Okay, and then we've got less than equal to P less than equal to, and unfortunately you can't be as lazy as me here because you'll be in your book. Okay, so there we go, and I've just got to make that a plus. Okay, and then I put that all in my calculator, and I get 0.313 less than equal to P, which is less than equal to 0.447. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go through the steps to check this now. So if you were using your graphics calculator, so I'll just put this here, graphics calculator, we can go to stat mode, and then we can go INTR, and then there we press Z, which is F1. Okay, these buttons were all F1s. I just picked the Z because it was easier. And then we're going one prop for proportion. Okay, we then change our confidence level is 95. Our number of values that we picked was 34. Sorry, not 34. We had 76. So in here it's got C level, and we've got 95. It's then got X, which equals 76, which was the number of crows. Then it's got N, which was 200. And then I go execute, and it gives me 0.327, but we round it to, and 0.447. Now, interpret your answer in this one. Have I run out of space? Am I going to be able to move it? No. Okay, so the answer here, when we're interpreting our answer, remember we picked a 95% confidence interval. So we're saying we are 95% confident. The actual proportion, so I'm going to have to write small. We are 95% confident that the actual proportion of Crows supporters now, because in South Australia, we've got to include this in South Australia because the question included it as well. In South Australia lies between 31.3% and 44.7%. All right, and that's it for the question. So I'm going to leave that there, but that's all we're doing with those proportions there. All right, thanks, guys.